What if I could make this a game so that I could learn the love languages and apply it in my life? And so to make it be part of myself, I created a game. So I created my own icons and put it on a cube.
How nice to have you here, Paul. Welcome to Sweden, I could say.
Thank you very much, Joanna. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Of course, we're doing this on the web, so it's all over the world. And whoever is watching this is welcome as well. So let's dive right into it because people are so curious as to what this is. We're both devotees of love, you could say. We both work in the name of love. And why should someone pay attention to this? Why is it important? Why should someone listen today?
Joanna, that's a really good question. And actually, no one's ever asked me that, but that's an excellent question. Why should we pay attention to love? I think the alternative is really, really a bad alternative. And as I've tried to learn the spectrum from anger to love, that spectrum has really kind of given me an idea that when people can self-actualize themselves, find out where they are on that spectrum from anger to love, I think that they're going to move more toward love. If they really knew, they could describe what behavior am I doing right now, and then find out what the opposite of that behavior would be. I think that as they found out those opposites, they'd gravitate more toward love. Just for example, take the word sarcasm. It's more of an angry word. And if you figure out what the opposite would be, I would suggest genuine, somebody that's authentic, somebody that's true. And as you realize that, you're going to move toward being more authentic, more genuine. Nobody wants to be more sarcastic or more angry.
But don't they? Do they even know they're sarcastic? Do they even know that that is wrong? Why would someone self-identify wanting to be more loving?
Just it's a better life. It's whatever you send out is coming back to you. And if you believe the laws of the universe, it doesn't matter whether you believe or not, they're going to happen because they're the laws of the universe. But what you send out will come back to you. It's very evident in the law of the harvest, karma, the law of attraction, the law of polarity, whatever you want to call the law of the universe, it's going to come right back to you. I like to call it a boomerang, that if you send anger out as a boomerang, that's coming right back to you. And it's going to come back with the G force because the gravity force is going to come back more powerful than you ever sent it out. Who wants that? Who wants more anger in their life? Or who wants people to be more angry at them? It's a choice to be more loving. It's a peaceful life. I think people would want that choice to make their lives more peaceful and the lives of the people that are around them. That's the choice that we're talking about.
Interesting. In my work, because I help people also, I don't call it self-actualize. I call it feel more at ease, be more happy, have things flow better. Because in my world, I'm not convinced that people actually understand that anger is not a good thing, in the sense that in a lot of society all over the world, anger seems to be a powerful emotion. Anger seems to be something that you can use to show that you're right, to prove that you try to prove that you're right. So maybe there needs to be more. There needs to be more education, maybe. I mean, that's why we're doing this, right? We want to tell people that love is a good thing. Love is not a silly thing, if you will. Because a lot of grown-ups, if you don't go to church, if you're not religious, of course, I live in Sweden and it's fairly secular, and the church is not all that strong in the world. And then, of course, there are all kinds of statements and incidences in churches, all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of churches, from the Vatican to the liberal churches. And so it becomes, people might question the institutions where love is presented. Um, so how can you find love outside of these institutions? Why is it important to look for love, maybe even outside of these institutions?
Great question, Joanna. And I just want to back up that the whole idea that what I've discovered, I was raised in an angry atmosphere when I was young, an abusive atmosphere, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, a lot of different kinds of abuses that I was actually trained to be an abuser from abusive parents. And it was just that type of situation is definitely something that would motivate someone. You get angry enough that you motivated, and anger, when it motivates you, is actually a very good positive thing that it motivates you to try for something better. As far as anger towards someone else, that's probably not appropriate. Anger to motivate you, to move you, motivate you to get somewhere to somewhere else, that would be appropriate anger. And the second thing is that looking for love is not probably not the right way to think about love. What I The way I like to think of it is that we create love, or it's given to us, or we have it within us and we give it away. I love the classic The Sound of Music. And in The Sound of Music, Rolf is on the ground. He's singing to the oldest Von Trapp daughter on the second story. And in that song, he says, love in the heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till it's given away. So where is the word find in that? It's really not something to be found. It's not something to sit in your desk or sit at home, wait for it to come to you. It's not going to happen. Most likely it's not going to happen. So the whole idea of what I've created is to give it away. And while you're giving it away, you learn more about it in every way by giving it away, a whole lot more than you ever would sitting and pining away, waiting it for it to come to your way or trying to find it.
Hmm, interesting. Um, I remember years ago learning about, let's see, Gary Chapman's book,
Mm-hmm.
The Five Love Languages.
Yeah.
Has that been your inspiration, or what has inspired you?
Joanna, that's a great question. And yes, it would be the answer to Dr. Chapman's theory. The application didn't work for me. So, from where I came from, that angry childhood that I came from, I didn't get his application. I was thinking, Dr. Chapman, you mean that I'm supposed to guess what Joanna's love language is and then cater to that? And you're calling that
Mm-hmm.
love? That didn't
Mm-hmm.
work for me. The second thing
Mm-hmm.
that Dr. Chapman has is that, well, if you take this survey, then I can find out what my love language is. Well, Joanna, what am I supposed to do with that? Advertise? I could get a button, put on my shirt and say, hello, I'm Gifts. What do you have for me today? And it's just awkward. And I think that awkwardness, that didn't work for me either. Because what I found in the anger that I learned growing up was that my father would stack annoyances on top of annoyances, top of annoyances till he couldn't do it anymore. And it had this flash, and I didn't want to do that anymore. But just the very fact that I grew up in anger made me have kind of a negative attitude about other things. I would say I don't want to be angry. So it's a very negative statement, and it's kind of a double negative statement. Double negatives multiplied together in math make a positive. It doesn't work in relationships. It absolutely wasn't working for me to make a statement like that. So what I really needed was a replacement behavior. I started the previous behavior. I was saying, what's wrong with that person? Why don't they do it this way? As if I could command their own life and command the life of another or make choices for another person. It's none of my business. And when I realized that angry people or the angry culture They don't have boundaries. And I didn't have that boundary that says that's their life. Allow them to do it. Quit being annoyed at what they're doing because it's not your call. When I realized that and told myself that, I realized, well, what do I do? And as far as it relates to love, can send it out and I can respond when it comes back. So, as far as the inspiration for the love languages, I did contact Dr. Chapman and ask him if he would license those little icons for the love languages. And his attorney wrote back and said, "No, we're not doing that right now." So I went to a copyright attorney locally, and he told me this, that theory, like the love language theory, is not copyrightable. Application is. So I remember growing up that we played games together as a family. Even as dysfunctional as we played games. Of course, there was the put downs, there was the smack talk, there was the aggressive competition, there was all that as part of the angry culture, but we played games and it brought our family together. And I thought, well, what if I could make this a game so that I could learn the love languages and apply it in my life? I read through the book 4 or 5 times. I still didn't get it. I went through the book, but the book didn't go through me. And so to make it be part of myself, I created a game. So I created my own icons and put it on a cube. This is what it looks like here. So on the cube for the listeners, I have a hand that is holding an hourglass. They're all pictures. There are no words on this, and that would represent time. Now I've got a hand holding a plate. That would represent service. Two hands form together that form a heart, and then they have a little conversation bubble out of that heart. Those would be the words from the heart. So those would be the words. Two hands reaching out, touching one another. That would be touch. And then the last love language would be a hand holding a gift. That would be gifts. 5 love languages, 6 sides on the cube. The last one is a hand holding a question mark. That surprised me. So, Joanna, there's 2 instructions. You roll the cube every day. Whatever it lands on, that's the love language you practice giving away all day that day. So what I needed, Joanna, was that replacement behavior. This actually became the replacement behavior. Instead of saying what's wrong with that person, now the dialogue in my mind and outside could be what's right with that person? What can I love about that person? And I realized that most people are maybe 10, 20% bad, that they have weaknesses, they have faults, and you could talk about that if you want to. But why not talk about the 80 to 90% that's good? Why not focus on that? And as I focused on that, I was so busy focusing on that, I forgot about being annoyed. I forgot about stacking those annoyances and having that same generational habit that my father and maybe grandfather, who knows how far back it goes. I forgot about having that habit of stacking those annoyances and then having that flash. And I started having stacking kindness on kindness on kindness on kindness to get to the higher laws of love. These love languages, in my opinion, Joanna, are basic. Everybody should really know this. After a 30-day period of rolling the cube, you will know all 5 love languages to give it away. The best part about that, it really gives you that peripheral vision so you can see it when it comes your way, respond appropriately. I've missed a lot of opportunities, people loving on me, and that was outside of my purview of my primary love language. So I didn't think that was love. Now I can see it as love. Oh, they're loving on me. It's not my primary love language, but I can respond appropriately back now. It's a different life.
That's really lovely. It's a nice compliment to what I do because most people come to me wanting to get rid of something that isn't good, a negative feeling.
Right.
And a lot of them can't even see the positivity. They're so focused on getting rid of the thing that doesn't work or doesn't feel good or it sits funny in their body, uncomfortable. But they actually can't see. They don't have so much of a vision always. of the positivity of love. And what I've discovered is that when you allow yourself to turn your head in another direction,
Mm-hmm.
um, or practicing with your cube. I'm looking forward to learning more about your cube as a tool for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
It 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 helps, and that's kind of what I was fishing for earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't even know that they're doing something wrong. They just
Mm-hmm.
have this issue. Something isn't working. Oh, my kid is so bad, and oh, he and she, and it's so easy to point a finger at
Mm-hmm.
everything else that isn't working. But to stop and actually, like you said, what can I appreciate about someone? That's really beautiful, and that's where um, that's the secret, isn't it? That's the
Yeah.
secret to love and life, and it's not silly at all. It's not the
No.
slightest silly, right?
It's so simple. It takes 2 seconds to roll the cube, or less. I mean, it just how long does it take to roll the cube? But it really kind of sets the theme or the mantra for the day, Joanna. And people need that purpose. If you act your life with purpose, this is a very simple thing that can set a purpose for the day. I'm going to love all day long. Everybody. I created this when I was single, Joanna. Dr. Chapman suggests that this works in romantic relationships. I'm saying it works in every relationship, and you should use it in every single relationship. Because
I agree.
the problem I had was I was when I as I'm single creating this, I didn't have that significant other to love. So I thought, who in the heck am I going to love? And then it just dawned on me, well, I have to love everybody. That was perfect for what I needed at the time. I needed that consistency of loving everybody all day long to get out of that habit of finding out what's wrong with that person, going down that critical path. I had to have that replacement behavior to say what's right with that person and to do it all day long to make it a habit. 30 days, actually 21 to 28 days is kind of a sweet spot. I just say 30 days to round it off. That if you do this for 30 days and then continue after that, you want to keep good habits. This is a good habit to focus and point your face in the direction of sending out love all day long rather than the negative 180 degrees the other way. You don't want to look back that way. You don't want to look at people's faults. I like to compare it to a magnifying glass, that when you magnify something, it's going to get larger. Why would you magnify the faults of another person to make it larger? You want that fault to be larger? Most likely not. Otherwise, you would be critical about it. If it's so ridiculous, boomerang will come right back to you. Now they're going to look at your faults. Why would you want that? Why would anyone want that in their life? And the second thing that you talked about was blame. I blamed my father up until about age 35 for all the awkwardness, the stacking, and then having that blowout in public places. And I like to compare it to someone having an accident in a swimming pool. Everybody scatters. It wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And then that person's all alone. I isolated myself, and I did not want to repel people like that. I wanted people to come my way and feel that love from them as I send it out. So
What was your apart from that funny story? What was your on a more deep level? Um, what was your shift? What made you realize that instead of also being angry and also because some people rebel, some people they want blood, they want vengeance. Was there something that made you see the other side, so to speak?
good question, Joanna. And yes, there is an event. I was dating about 15 years ago. The anger that I had was probably contributory to the demise of my first marriage. So I found myself single, started dating, and I got serious with someone. I'm number 10 of 11 children. So I always have to have big brother approval. So I just taken this woman to my brother's house, 300 miles north of where I live. And first thing that happened, I go in the house and my sister-in-law pulls her aside and says, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. At first I denied it, said, then it made me mad. And I thought, huh, I've been busted. She actually put me she put me on the spectrum, and I realized at that moment that where I was still on that angry side of the spectrum. That if that I could continue to blame my father and others for that anger, and I wouldn't have to do anything myself. I wouldn't move one way or the other on the spectrum. As long as you can blame someone, it's their fault. Go talk to them. You don't have to do a darn thing. I didn't want to. That was one choice. The second choice was become more angry. I didn't want to do that or become more loving. And I did want to do that. So that's when I started reading the color code and the five love languages and started moving toward that direction. I realized that I understood very well the anger, the language of anger, the vocabulary of anger, the humor of anger. I knew that culture inside and out, but I didn't know the language of love. And I needed to learn the language of love, the language of humor, the vocabulary, and of that love language as well.
Mm, beautiful. So, what was your self? What did you have to learn? What did you discover about yourself? Because there's more than just deciding and
Mm-hmm.
learning. There's inner work to be done. Uh, Acceptance that you've been this way, acceptance that you've also had a short temper, or acceptance and maybe sorrow over the time that passed, that you've been stuck in this way of being and blinded. What did you have to discover about yourself
Great
in order
question,
to be
Joe.
able to shift?
That's a great question, Joanna. And I really think that the anger, the realizing that I was angry, uh, and realizing that I had learned that angry culture and that actually was abusive. The verbal abuse and those abuses were being passed on, and the realization right at that sister-in-law moment, that realization was that if that's the perception of the Zolman family, it stops right here. I have an opportunity to change the whole perception for generations. That was really the impetus for me, that to be able to change that perception, that why would we want to be perceived as an angry family, and just to want to be perceived, how do I want to be remembered, was more the question. What is it that when I'm gone, what will people talk about, and what would be the legacy that I'll leave? And it's just that need to have a legacy that is worthwhile talking about, rather than an angry legacy. And why would I want to hand down an angry legacy to my children or grandchildren? I mean, it's not worth it to for them to go through the same pain that I've had in my own life because of those angry moments that I really wish I could take back. You really can't take them back. But I felt like had been so angry up until that point that I had a lot of work to do to become more loving and to send love out. And so that anger about the anger really became the motivation for me to become more loving and to continue down that path and to learn all that I can about loving and get as many quotes, write a book about it, and write about all the experiences that I've had just with such a simple tool. Just by small and simple things, I think you can really change and move mountains. That was a mountain for me, and I needed that moved
Mm.
out of my life. Nothing short of a
So,
miracle.
right. Yes, because anger, again, as I stated before, is perceived as a powerful expression. A lot of
Mhm.
people I mean, you feel powerful in a sense. Um, and yet, as we've discovered, love, this pink, subtle feeling, vulnerable feeling, gentle feeling, small feeling in many ways, can grow and become huge. It
Mm-hmm.
can become, uh, it can surpass any sort of power that I had this experience, you could call it, where I connected to a higher power,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt it was, I couldn't even bear it in my body. That's how strong this love
Mm-hmm.
power was. Um, but for the regular person starting out and wanting to shift out of something and finding something better, what can they look forward to shifting? What kind of transformation can a person look forward to having with your cube and your message and your books, because you've written 2 books? So what's the possibility?
Joanna, that's a great question. And I just want to go back a little bit to you. You asked me what was the event, and it's really kind of a daily event for me. I'm Christian, and Dr. Chapman also is Christian. He's a pastor that wrote the 5 love languages, and he said that those love languages are actually what Jesus Christ did in his own daily life. And I believe that. I did my own fact check. He spent time with people. He served people. We love his words. He touched people's eyes so they could see, ears so they could hear, and then he had the gifts of the Spirit. So he really practiced
Oh, that's
all five.
lovely.
He
I
practiced
like that.
all 5 love language in his lifetime. But there's one thing that he said, a statement that he said at the Last Supper that really has been more corrective for me. The response that the disciples had. He said, "One of you is going to betray me," and each one of the disciples said, "Lord, is it I? Lord, is it I? Lord, is it I?" And that phrase alone, that introspective phrase, if we ask ourselves, is it I? Am I the problem in this relationship? Has been very, very useful for me to be able to keep on track of, you know, where am I? But it's given to us little by little. Change that little each day to move more toward being a loving person. That's going to be most helpful for you and for those around you. So as you're rolling the die, there's one thing that I've failed to mention. What you're watching for is people to light up. When they light up, you've discovered what their primary or maybe a secondary love language is. And you don't have to say, "Excuse me, could we pause this relationship for a moment while I have you take this survey so I know how to love you?" We're done with awkward. You don't have to don't have to do awkward anymore, Joanna.
Oh, great. That's good to know. So, exactly, specifically, what do? You take the die, you throw it, you pick a person that you think needs help, or what's the way of working this?
Good question. So it's in a normal course of a day, it's you're going to have people that you interact with, whether it's at the clerk at the grocery store. I don't think that you really need to be specific and say go across the street to that neighbor. It's going to be in the normal course of life, and you're busy otherwise, but just in that busyness, just remember to love. It's everybody, and it's not meant to interrupt your day. It's meant to enhance your day so that you're going to have a better day because you're making their day the very best day ever. As you
Oh,
lift
that's right.
people,
Because
that
because you were supposed to throw it in the morning and then practice it throughout the day.
correct,
That's right. Okay. Yes.
focused on that particular love language that particular day. So surprise me would be random acts of kindness, or it could be dealer's choice. You could do any or all of the love languages, but you're just watching for opportunities to love all day long. Instead of watching for opportunities to be critical, which they're rampant, there are a lot of opportunities out there because everybody has faults. Everybody has those weaknesses. You can watch for that, or you can watch for opportunities to love what's right about them.
That's beautiful. Do you have a story where someone did this and how it turned out?
I have lots of stories. I've been working
The
with
best one.
the very best one. I think that probably most recently there's a gentleman that just started working at Walmart. I'm not sure if you know Walmart, but it's a big worldwide retailer, and
Yeah.
you start at the lowest level, and he's been rolling the cube every single day and practicing that. So from a customer service, this is kind of bottom up, not top down from the leaders down to the workers, but the worker up through the ranks. He's been practicing this every day with the customers and with the fellow employees at Walmart. And as he's doing that, now the customers are coming in and where's John? I need to talk to John. They're specifically asking for him because of the kindness that he does. And
Mm, how sweet.
all the fellow employees are asking, where's John? I have this question. And he's so loving in that way that now the supervisors are starting to say, where's John? And everybody's
Mm.
saying, where's John? They all want to talk to John because of his loving attitude. And I think that
Oh,
that's
that's
probably
wonderful.
that's a real life situation that's just really
Mm.
I heard about John doing that just this last week, and he's just doing a fantastic job practicing this, and people are responding very positively.
Oh, that's beautiful. And for all those people listening that are looking for promotion, let's say, in this other world, um, uh, that could be a wonderful way of showing and sharing this message and maybe getting a promotion as a bonus.
Absolutely.
So you're healing yourself, you're healing others, and then maybe you'll get that extra pay as a consequence.
That's a great point, Joanna. And as you use this cube over a 30-day period and getting to know all five love languages, you actually become what I like to call a love language linguist. Sexy title.
Ooh.
I know you want that.
I like it. Yes.
Everybody wants that title, but
Yes.
put it on your resume. And when you
Yes,
have it
please.
when you have it on your resume, you're going to go to that employer, and the employer's going to say, "What the heck is a love language linguist? I've never heard
Oh.
of that." And you'll say, I just love people." That employer wants their customers loved, and they want a loving environment within the workplace. Your resume
Mm.
should rise to the top that way. So everybody
Mhm.
needs to become a love language linguist. As I
Oh.
mentioned, this really is the basics. These basics are stair steps to the higher laws of love, like compassion, like intimacy, like forgiveness or mercy or empathy or sympathy. This is the stair step to get there. Can you
Mm.
imagine someone insulting, and then asking for forgiveness? It's not going to be happening. You have to
Mm.
do the kindnesses, stack those kindnesses, just as I was stacking the anger and the annoyances to get to that flash of anger, stack the kindness to get to those higher laws of love.
Oh, gorgeous. I can see for those people that don't read the Bible for a variety of reasons and have maybe stumbled upon the Course of Miracles, which also is a huge
Mm-hmm.
book. I can see that your cube and your method and this whole lovely title that you get at the end. Well, there is no end, but along the way, 30 days, you're saying, um, it's your cube and the method is like a fast forward technique of the Course of Miracles,
Mm-hmm.
because the Course of Miracles is 365 days, and it's like a more playful way of doing the Course of Miracles.
You
It's
know,
great. I love it.
thank you, Joanna. I really like it too because variety is really the spice of life. And if we pigeonhole people into that box and just give them the same thing, you're going to have tacos every night, Joanna, for the rest of your life. How do you like that?
Oh
I know,
no.
I know, I know. So you need to have
uh,
that variety, and as you practice each love language, it's going to be a variety to your loved ones as well as to everybody around you. and you're going to
Mm.
practice that variety of love and become very proficient at a lot of different, you'll have a whole menu of love, different ways
Mm.
that you can send love out.
Oh, beautiful. Um, Time is running out. So please share with us how we can get in touch with you and the cube and this system that you have. Where do people go for this?
Thank you, Joanna. The people can find this at roleoflove.com, ROLE of love.com. And it's kind of a play on words. You ROLL, roll the cube outside of you. This changes you within. And that's what I
Mm.
needed for my life. And I think a lot of people could use this in their own life, that it'll change them within, that they can find the cube, the book. I have a journal that also helps. Some people like to keep track of what they rolled. It's really kind of a great way to be responsible and hold yourself responsible, is to and decompress at the end of the day. How did I what did I roll that day? What opportunities did I see to love in that way? And then what did I do about those opportunities? So the journal is very,
Mm.
very important. They can buy the bundle for $29.99 on my website, plus the shipping. And it's on special. It's about 20% off the retail price. Or if people listening to this podcast also like to listen to books while they're driving or whatever, they can go to Amazon, and I do have an audible version of the book. But you don't want to type in Roll of Love on Amazon, because you're going to get love this, love that, love a million things. And if you type in my name, it should bring it right up to the audible version of the book. And they can buy the book and the journal. The die is not available on Amazon. Just Amazon has a problem connecting publishing with actually products, and so it's two different divisions. So they can only get the cube or the die on my website.
What's your last message to all of us, to the
Well,
world?
that's a great question, Joanna, and I love how you just put your hands together like that to ask me that question, because that's the word. Namaste. It's a different language. It's the Sanskrit dialect of northern India, but the Hindu interpretation of that means that the God in me sees the God in you, or the divine in me sees the divine in you. And as we're watching for the light or the divine in each other, that's going to make the world a whole lot better place. Quit looking for the faults of other people. Start looking for the divine, the light.
Well, then, thank you so much for being here with us today. And all the best to you yourself, of course.
Thank you, Joanna. It's a
And
pleasure to be with you, and great questions. Enjoyed this podcast.
thank you.